So, tip number 2. I do want to go back on this because, as I was making this point, I actually was thinking, wow, I'm underemphasizing this. Tip number 2, Daniel helps. Yes, Daniel helps. But you might have noticed it, I did in passing make the point, also think about the 5th seal. The 5th seal is a big deal, okay? I actually think the 5th seal, in a way, is a bigger deal than the whole Daniel linkage, although it all comes together, as we'll see. Okay, why do I think it is important? Because the 5th seal, that is a sniper rifle. The 5th seal essentially puts a target on the head of somebody, okay? The 5th seal describes an epic persecution that is going to happen to the Christian, to the believers, right? It's a prediction of it. Now, bear in mind, this is AD 85. They've already had an absolute, I don't know what the word, horrendous time at the hands of Nero in AD 54, okay? So something like that, reads like it's going to be worse, is going to happen. So imagine receiving that prophecy in AD 85. You know, there's some good news in Revelation there's a bit of advice for the ecclesia. There's some nice kingdom visions, but there's also a really nasty poison pill in there, which is the 5th seal, which is, hate to break it to you, but you're a future generation of the meeting, doesn't say which one, are going to get absolutely wrecked again, just like Nero did 30 years ago. So not very nice. But what that does is it puts a target on the head of the system that does that, okay? So, which is helpful if you're trying to definitively show who this book is targeting, okay? Which empire, which people, whatever, nation. Revelation 6, those that were slain for the word of God, they cried with a loud voice, how long, O Lord? And there's a language of judgment, payback, vengeance. God directed vengeance, not, vengeance isn't ours, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says God. And them that dwell on the earth. So that's the target. The target is whoever does this to them, okay? So a persecution is prophesied under the 5th seal, and now you're just thinking, well, who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? And that is the key question. Who is going to kill them? Now, Revelation 8 suggests to you that this is a very important question because whoever does that they've got a target on their head, and they are going to receive the judgments of the trumpets, okay? The trumpet judgments are directed at the perpetrators of the 5th seal persecution, okay? So can you see the equivalence, right? So I've broken it into a table. The prayers of the persecuted, this is a prediction, it hasn't happened yet, it happened later, but 2 events later, you got the 6th seal after that, then you got the first trumpet, and the second, and the third, and the fourth, and the 5th, 6th, and all the vials are directed at the perpetrators of this immense crime, and a whole bunch of crimes that actually preceded it, okay? Who is it? Okay, who is it? Because once we know who this is, the jig's up. We don't need to look around anywhere. We know where to look in history. There's only one place to look. It's whoever did this, okay? In AD 85, you already have a strong suspect, a very strong suspect. It's probably the Romans. Not definitely, it's probably the Romans. Why? Because they've got form. They've already done it 30 years prior. Nero, big time, okay? That was like a peak. They did it on and off afterwards for centuries, okay? So you already suspect them. On the basis of Daniel, even more you are suspecting them because it's the Iron Image era, right? They are in power. They are the most influential on God's people because of that. So they're already strong suspects. So if you to sort of recall the sniper picture, the rifle is already, the sight is on the head of the Roman system, of the Iron Image system, okay? At that point, even before anything has happened, when that prophecy is received. So you suspect these judgments are going to go after the Romans, but you don't know that for sure, okay? And just to sort of underline that suspicion even further, look at Daniel 7, right? Same language. It was predicted, 500-600 BC. Daniel predicted that fourth beast, which aligns to the iron legs of Daniel's image in chapter 2, okay? It's going to persecute God's people. It'll make war with the saints and will wear them out, okay? But there would be payback. That was predicted in Daniel 7, verse 26 to verse 22, and it is absolutely, definitely the Roman Empire, okay? The legs of Daniel are the Roman Empire. The fourth beast is the Roman Empire. So now we have got pretty strong circumstantial evidence that suggests before anything has happened in AD 85, this book has a target on the head of the Roman system, of the iron system, okay? AD 303, to me, it's over, right? There is no doubt who this is now. It is the Romans. Diocletian unleashes the most epic persecution in the history of the world on the Christians. It's a historic fact. He absolutely destroyed the Christian people. It was sickening what he did. And at that point, to me, as it were, the safety is off on the rifle and God is just waiting to pull the trigger. It is the Roman Empire, okay? Revelation, the trumpets, the vials, predict judgments against the Roman Empire. No doubt, no doubt. If you don't know that, good luck understanding the book. It is extremely difficult. Once you know that, it is relatively easy to just look at history and lo and behold, you see these epic historic events that impacted the Roman Empire unfolding and they kind of align with the language of the book, of the trumpets or whatever the case may be. So I just wanted to emphasise tip number 2, that aspect of it that I didn't emphasise so much last time. All right, the Vandals. So this is second trumpet. So I'll just give you a bit of a précis of what I think it is, and then we'll look at the scripture, and then we'll go back and sort of look at how history played out and how it does or does not align. So the second trumpet, I would suggest to you, is a prediction of essentially a naval assault on the Roman Empire. That was fulfilled by a Vandal leader named Gaiseric, or Genseric, as people write it different ways. I think, what have I got up there? Gaiseric. Sometimes it's got an A, sometimes it's got a G-E-N. I don't know. I think we'll just say Gaiseric. He essentially, around the middle of the 5th century, went after the Roman Empire. It's interesting the reasons why that happened, and caused them immense grief. I think that is the second trumpet, or how it played out. Now, that's kind of the preview. What does the Bible say about this particular trumpet? So Revelation 8 verse 8, let's read it. The second trumpet sounded, and as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea. Okay, a great mountain burning with fire. Let's just look at that first. One other point I want to make is that particularly the first 4 trumpets, there is not a lot of words given. So trumpets 5 and 6, there's a lot of descriptive words. I think in that sense, it's a little easier to pin down exactly who it's talking about. I still think it's hard to pin down the exact timings and that sort of thing, but the general, there's a lot of descriptive words given, so it's hard to say it's not who it is when you get to it. We'll come to that next week, or fortnight, God willing. But with the first 4 trumpets, it's like 1 verse, 2 verses. Some of the words are, they're really just reinforcing what you already know. I feel like they're talking about blood and people dying and fire and judgment and symbolic language of powerful leaders. Well, yes, there's going to be military assault against the Roman Empire. I'd assume there's some pretty serious leadership involved, and I assume there's going to be a lot of blood on the floor. So it really just, to me, sometimes reiterates that. And when you take that away, you're not left with that much. You're left with maybe 1 or 2 or 3 key words, and that's all you've got to figure out what happened, okay? So it's not much. And therefore, as I said before, if you don't know, you're looking at the Roman Empire, to me, it could be Genghis Khan, could be some Maori tribal leader, could be anybody, right? Once you know it's the Romans, okay, now you can get it to slot in. Because especially with those first 4 trumpets, there is not much detail given. So, good example of that, a great mountain burning with fire. Okay, I'm going to suggest to you this is Gaiseric. Where do I get that from? So, what does the Bible suggest a great mountain is? Well, a great mountain in the Bible is symbolic, I think, of a significant power. As I said, to me, that just reaffirms what I'd expect is if you're going to go to war with the Roman Empire and succeed, you're a great power, okay? So I feel that has been reaffirmed. We have this mountainous power, like the Babylonian Empire, for example, is going to go after the Roman Empire, okay? We have this language of fire, which to me points to judgment, perhaps pain, suffering, destruction, a little bit like Alaric did. That all fits as well. That's kind of how you'd expect it to play out as well. This is a trumpet, okay? But I'm still looking for something distinctive to actually identify who this is or who might have fulfilled this. And I don't really get that till I get to the second half of verse 8. And that's when I feel we're seeing some key words. Because this mountain wasn't just, it doesn't just say it assaulted the Roman Empire. It has emphasis on the language of the sea, okay? It was cast into the sea. And the third part of the sea, possibly an allusion to the third part of the Roman Empire, the same one we've just encountered, maybe, let's see, became blood. Yep, there's going to be bloodshed. It's a war. And the third part of the creatures which are in the sea, again, second time we've seen that word, the sea, okay? In a description that's pretty short on words, that is important. Twice, the word the sea. Had life, died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. Now you've got three words saying essentially the same thing. You've got ships and the ocean emphasised twice, okay? What do I take away from this? You can't take that much away from it. You're not given that many hints. What are you given? You know it's going to be a war. You know the Romans are going to get it. This to me is the language of naval assault, okay? What else could it be? They're the only distinctive words in the prophecy. There's going to be some sort of naval assault on the Roman Empire, right? Around the same time or after the first trumpet blows, that reached its crescendo in 410 AD when Alaric sacked Rome. There's no doubt that was the crescendo event. When it started, you can debate. When it finished, you can't. It was 410 AD when he sacked Rome. Okay? Sometime after that, expect something to go down from a naval perspective. Did that happen? Well, it did, but it's interesting how it happened and who did it. Because think about Gaiseric. So we'll come back to that in a second. The thing about Gaiseric is, well, I'll say it. He didn't have a navy, right? That's the problem Gaiseric had, and that's the problem we have with this prophecy. But let's backtrack a little bit. Gaiseric and his Vandal people were happily living in southern Spain. Nice place to live, that's understandable. But another barbarian tribe came after him, the Suebians, I think it was. Yeah, Suebians. And he basically fled away from the trouble, crossed the, I think it's the Straits of Gibraltar, down to Morocco, and got away from the conflict. Smart move. Even smarter, he realised when he got there, because it was like this happy coincidence. He gets down to Morocco, North Africa, and he realises there's Romans down there because North Africa was part of the central/Italian third of the Roman Empire. Surprise, surprise. Okay? And he starts attacking. They're not that powerful down there. They're not that well positioned militarily. And he starts picking off these Roman settlements in North Africa and just plundering them and getting rich. Okay? So he goes from Morocco, he heads east, Algeria, and ultimately he ends up in Tunisia. And he just conquers town by town North Africa. And the Romans just kind of are not able to withstand him. They've got other problems, right? They've got barbarians elsewhere in the realm up on the north side of the Med as well. Okay. Note where Carthage is, okay? Carthage, you can still go to the ruins of speaking out, about the fact that some of these places, or all these places, are real. Some of them you can go and see the remnants. You can go and see the remnants of Carthage. It's in Tunisia, okay? So that's where it was. I'll come back to Carthage in a minute. But, big problem. Gaiseric does not have a navy. Okay, so if I'm a Bible student this time and I'm looking for I've seen the first trumpet blow. I'm pretty happy about that, I suppose. I'm looking for the next one. I wonder, what's this sea-based thing going to be? And I'm looking at this Gaiseric guy. I'm hearing news. He's causing a fair bit of pain down there in North Africa. I mean, I wonder if this is a second trumpet. I think, I doubt it. I mean, he's causing a bit of pain, but doesn't have a navy. It reads, or maybe it's because he's on he's on North Africa and North Africa sits on the Med. Maybe? Oh no, it talks about ships. Yeah, okay. Oh well, maybe it'll be someone else. Maybe it'll come later. Okay, and this is an example of what I was talking to Aaron about this actually. What I would call like a prophecy fake out. Right, this happens. You see this happening. This might be what's happening with Russia right now in the Ukraine. Right, prophetic fake outs. It happened with Alaric. Alaric and Radagaisus looked like they were getting absolutely, well, Radagaisus he was killed by Stilicho. It looked to all the world like this ain't the first trumpet. These guys are never going to get to Rome. They're never going to do anything major that would align with the sort of destruction this so-called trumpet is predicting, because Stilicho's got their number. And then with all due respect, idiots in Rome kill their top general, And that's it. Alaric, he didn't just waltz into Rome. It took a few sieges, but he takes Rome, right? Crazy, prophetic fake out. God just flips everything on its head. And that is what happens here as well. You've got this Vandal king who's doing really well, who doesn't like Romans, looks promising. He's got no boats. You know what happened? No problem. He gets up to Carthage. Carthage is a massive naval city for the Roman Empire. It's got this immense, technologically advanced for the time fleet, sailors, fantastic fortifications, port facilities for this immense navy. And it was pretty hard to take from the ocean, but Gaiseric took it by land. So it's sort of like, I don't know, this is probably a bad analogy, but I was trying to think of an analogy. It's like, you go up to wherever the US are parked, they've got a few aircraft carriers parked there, let's pretend in Hawaii, and just sort of walk up and shoot a few guards at the boom gate and walk in and take the keys to ignition and drive off with the aircraft carriers. They just didn't defend the city very well by land, and Gaiseric just inherited this massive state-of-the-art navy, like that. Right? I'm sure it wasn't that easy, but he took the city, and the Romans were just caught with their pants down, essentially. And he's now got instant, brilliant navy. Aha, interesting, because the trumpet did talk about ships, didn't it? Okay. And then, so when was that? I don't remember the date. It was 439. Okay. Then over a period of about 15 years, he's smart. He's commercially smart. He's financially smart. He's got all these cities. It's productive land. He starts to make lots and lots of money out of all these towns he's stolen off the Romans. Because the Romans weren't able to deal with him. It was kind of a stalemate at this point. They let him be. So he makes tons of money. And guess what he does with all his money? He buys more boats. He builds an even bigger navy than the one he stole from the Romans. He's now got an immense navy, okay? And then Valentinian III is killed by Petronius Maximus, who decides he's going to appoint himself Roman emperor in Rome, okay? And Petronius Maximus makes a big mistake when he does that, because it is a stalemate up until this point. Now, I'm giving you the short version, but Gaiseric does slowly pick off like Sardinia and Corsica and these key strategic islands in the Med as the years are rolling on. So he is starting to build a very strong strategic position in that area at a naval level, but he doesn't strike. And the reason he strikes in the end is because Petronius Maximus makes himself emperor, kills his predecessor, and then he takes the daughter, Odoacer, I think it is, of the previous emperor, weds her off to his son. I'm not sure if he realised or not, I actually can't remember. But unfortunately for him, she was meant to marry Huneric, who was Gaiseric's son, and that really annoyed Gaiseric. And so Gaiseric got all his boats and he went after Rome. That's payback. And he sacked Rome. That was it. He had such a powerful navy, he just went up there. Now, Rome is a tiny bit inland, so obviously there was some level of land-based military involved, but predominantly this was just a massive naval victory assault. Goes up to Rome, just like Alaric, and he sacks Rome in, I think it was AD about 455. Okay? So 45 years on, second time Rome gets sacked by a barbarian, exactly as predicted. Now, the trumpet doesn't say Rome's going to get sacked. It just says it's going to be some brutal judgment on Rome. As it turns out, it was really brutal. They literally sacked the city. Okay, that's only step one. He comes back again. So on the back of that, 5 years later, new emperor. So same as Alaric, this didn't lead to the complete annihilation of the Central Roman Empire. It just knocked it around, knocked it down quite a few pegs. But it was a powerful beast. It kind of stands back up. Emperor Majoran is in power. He's aware of Gaiseric. They don't like him, you can understand why, and they want to deal with him. So he decides he's going to assemble a massive fleet. He knows he's got to deal with that navy. Assembles a massive fleet, parks it up in what's now called Cartagena in Spain. What was it? Carthago Nova, okay? Parks it up there, but a bit like the Jews in 67, Gaiseric finds out about this, and he just sends his navy up preemptively and wipes the whole thing out, okay? Second massive, massive naval loss for the Roman Empire against Gaiseric. Third time round, that was the Central Roman Empire. This is now the Eastern Roman Empire, okay? So in a sense, it's slightly off topic. But then the Eastern Roman Emperor, who is a different person, Emperor Leo out of Constantinople, he also sees Gaiseric as a threat. And so he also decides he's going to go to war with him. He sends Basilicus, his commander, and they clash. And there's two epic clashes. The first one, Gaiseric doesn't actually do very well. But the second one, he obliterates Leo's fleet. And I think, 600 ships, okay? So the prophecy, you could read it as predicting that a third of the navy are going to be wiped out. I do not have the data on that. I don't know if a third were wiped out. I don't know if anyone's got that data, but it was an awful lot of boats. It's probably a credible number. He wiped out a lot of Roman boats, okay? And he, is this a throwback to is this what the fire was talking about in the prophecy? He used fire ships. Maybe, maybe not, I don't know, but it's just curious that he did use fire ship technology, which is essentially a ship with a flamethrower mounted on the front, goes up to the other boat and just covers it in flames. So he did use that successfully against the Romans, who had hitherto been using it successfully against their enemies. So he stole their technology. Okay, so Gaiseric, second trumpet, naval assault, sounds credible to me. That's what happened historically. Second massive blow to the Central Roman Empire. Third trumpet, Attila the Hun, okay? Attila the Hun. Interestingly, so I've got some dates up there, about the middle of the 5th century. If you remember the dates from Gaiseric, they actually roughly overlap, okay? So this is interesting. These second and third trumpets happened around the same time. And that's important because indirectly, what Gaiseric did down in Carthage and out of that place helped Attila do what he then did at the other end extremity of the Central Roman Empire, because he went after the northeastern extreme, the Balkan extreme, which was not that well defended because they were too busy going after Gaiseric down in the southwest, down in Carthage. So these two trumpets kind of work together. Okay, what does the Bible say about this one? Third angel sounded, Revelation 8 verse 10, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. Again, a star, it's the language of a great leader, okay? You've got an example there from the ESV, mind you. King of Babylon is star to star. It's that heavenly symbolism language we talked about in the last class. Yes, senior leaders are styled as stars, okay? They still are, even in the vernacular today. Fair enough. So a senior leader, again, to me, this isn't really helping me that much to pin down who this actually is. It's just saying there's going to be a senior leader go to war against the Romans. Again, third time lucky, okay? Obviously, the first two, the inference of the fact that the trumpets keep coming, at least up until the fourth, when you transition, there's a sharp language, transition language to the woe trumpets. Up until then, the inference is the first three trumpets are not going to finish off whatever the target is, right? Whatever third of the Roman Empire has been targeted, it won't finish it off. The fourth will, okay? So even this one, the inference is, because there is a fourth trumpet, the third one probably won't finish it off. And he didn't, but he did a lot of damage, like the first two before him. Anyway, leader's going to come. He's going to come down from heaven, as it were, and he's going to fall upon, there's that language again, the third. That's another good thing to Bible mark, by the way. That, I don't know if that's in the worksheet or not. I can't remember. It fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of water. So now, again, okay, not many words. So when I see a distinctive word like rivers, fountains of waters, I'm interested, okay? Just like C in the previous one, just like the trees and the hail and the one before that. These are distinctive words that are unique to this prediction of judgment on the Roman Empire. Okay. I think I just made this point that you would reasonably expect that it's talking again about a third of the Roman Empire. It is probably the same third as the first two trumpets, okay? Probably. Doesn't say it definitively, but I'm looking in that direction because the pattern of the language doesn't change till the fifth trumpet, which is the woe trumpet, first woe trumpet, and it just keeps using this language of the third. So probably I'm looking at the Central Roman Empire again for a judgment, and that is how it plays out. But what do these rivers mean? Well, when I look at that language, I think, well, is there a section of the Roman Empire that was particularly characterised by rivers? Okay. Is that a thing? and you find, yep, lo and behold, you look at the geography, absolutely. The Volga River is a very big river system, but it's in Russia, so discount that. The Rhine is it's sort of third in line in terms of the Europe in the broader sense. Volga's actually the number one, but it's not really part of Europe, and it wasn't part of the Roman Empire. But the Rhine was, but it's not as big as the Danube, and I'm already looking at the Middle Empire. It wasn't part of that. So I wonder if it's something to do with the Danube, okay? That's where I'm probably going to be looking. So this river's reference may be a reference to that. That perhaps is what the clue is talking about. If so, that is a map of that area, okay? So there's the River Danube. So that map there is kind of that green inset there, and that's the Mediterranean Sea. So you've got the Italian boot, northeast of that, or upper right, your upper right, that is the Danube area. That is what we call the Balkans. So in modern language, you've got countries like Slovakia, Romania, Serbia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, okay? The Balkans, that general region, okay? So that was part, just like North Africa, that geographical area was definitely part of the central third of the Roman Empire. So now I've got this emphatic, and it's full of massive river with tributaries, okay? So now maybe, just maybe, this is where I ought to be looking, okay? The other clue that's given, if you're wondering why I've got this, we're not on hall cleaning. I thought this would be funny if you did that. You're on hall cleaning, you put that as the decorations, but it probably wouldn't compete very well with that. So it's not for hall cleaning, it's not for Sunday morning, but that is Wormwood, okay? And that is the second clue we're given as to who's going to do this, or what's going to do this, or how, or whatever, okay? The name of the star is called Wormwood, and the third part of the waters became Wormwood, okay? Still talking about the rivers. And many men died, no surprises, this is war, of the waters because they were made bitter, okay? Wormwood, the most distinctive characteristic of wormwood, and you can eat it. You see different things on Google. Some things say it'll kill you, but other things say it won't. I'm pretty sure it won't, unless you eat lots of it. So I did try, this is dry wormwood. This is from a herb store. Apparently it kills parasites, apparently. That's dried, and then this is a wormwood plant. I've tried both of them. You're welcome to try them at your own, maybe ask your parents if you're a kid. They taste really bitter. They taste really bitter. And I think that's actually used in that bitters that's used in lemon, lime and bitters, the drink. Okay. So anyway, this is the key characteristic. So this trumpet is going to be particularly bitter and nasty. So Alaric, Radagaisus, Gaiseric, nasty, right? Nasty. They killed so many Romans. And Alaric and Radagaisus, they were really brutal. Like, they were nasty, okay? This language, to me, is pointing to someone who is going to be even nastier. This is Attila the Hun, okay? Bitter, bitter warfare in this region. Oh, there you go. That was in case I forgot to refer to those. I don't know how I could have. So you're welcome to look at those at the end. Okay, so we expect a brutal or bitter assault on the Roman Empire, probably the central third again, because the trend is your friend until the end, and that's where it's been trending so far. Okay, probably in the Balkan region, because that central empire has got that river-dominated section of land, big area. And to this point, we know what's happened with Trumpet 1, we know what's happened with Trumpet 2 at this point. They've targeted kind of the central Italian leg, the first one, the Mediterranean, the navy, I suppose, and various islands in the Med, Rome itself. So it's, if you like, the southwestern area of the central Roman Empire. There hasn't been much action up in the northeast, right? They've kind of got off scot-free thus far. Well, Attila is going to sort that out. Okay, so what was Attila like? Was he bitter? Was he nasty? This is. I've read a bit of history on Attila, not that much, but a little bit. And it all pretty much paints the same picture. So let's read that together. Attila the Hun, this is a summary of him from a historian, is one of history's most fearsome and terrifying leaders. Actually, I will say he's probably the most well-known of Gaiseric, Radagaisus, Alaric, Odoacer, who we're going to see is in and around the fourth trumpet. Most people haven't, a lot of people on the street probably haven't heard of them, but they have heard of Attila the Hun, right? There's a reason for that. He was absolutely brutal. Ruler of the Hunnic Empire and the leader of the barbaric Huns tribe in the 5th century, he was an unstoppable whirlwind of destruction. This is a historian, right? This is not a Christadelphian site. He made it his life's mission to tear apart the entire Roman Empire. That is strong language, yeah? Leading a series of ferocious and bloody battles from east to west, decimating entire cities and claiming vast stretches of land for himself. His name alone could strike fear in the heart of any Roman. No wonder then that he earned the nickname of Flagellum Dei, the scourge of God. And he was the scourge of God. He was a divinely appointed man who unleashed judgment on the Roman Empire because they had it coming to them. It was a prediction and it played out. Okay, and it just so happens he was the man that God used to do that. Okay, what did he do? He attacked all the areas of the Roman Empire in the Balkan region. Okay, the Danube region, the riverland, if you like, not our riverland, their riverland. Okay, the Romans stripped the Balkan areas of forces. How did that happen? Because of the Second Trumpet. Okay, they took their forces out because they had this massive headache down in the southwest, which was Gaiseric. He'd stolen their navy, so they had to deal with him. And they leave the northeastern part of their empire quite vulnerable to this brutal man, Attila the Hun. So he goes on a rampage, absolutely murdering and killing and wiping out villages, towns, everything all over that region. Okay, it's a long story, but that's the short version. Eventually, he's the only one. Interesting thing about him is he's the only one of the four trumpets that did not sack Rome. He got stuck at the River Po, which is on sort of at the north of Italy. He didn't get any further, as if, maybe as if to say this is just subjective, but God never really wanted him to go any further because his focus was in the river areas as expected. Now, if he'd sacked Rome, would the prophecy be wrong? No, because it doesn't actually comment on that, but it's just interesting that he did succeed tremendously in that river area, that Balkan area, and he couldn't get any further than the River Po as he headed down south into Italy. He did a peace deal, and then he actually, disease, starvation came into his army, and that was kind of the end of Attila the Hun. But not before he had given immense pain to the Roman Empire in that river/Danube/Balkan area, which is what you would expect to happen based on the prophecy. That is the only point of emphasis, really. The wormwood, the bitterness, so particularly severe, and the river aspect. Expect it to have that form, and it did. Lucky last, the fourth trumpet. Okay, this is almost sort of funny because the other three trumpets took 10, 20, 30 years. Okay, they took a long time, some of them. Particularly Gaiseric took a long time his judgment took decades. Odoacer, who is the finisher, the one who actually finished off the Roman Empire, because the other ones, they always kind of rebounded to some extent, weakened, but they never fully finished them off, chopped off the head, as it were. They never quite chopped off the head. Odoacer chopped off the head. And I don't even know if that's the right pronunciation, by the way. Odoacer. It's probably neither. So whatever the case, it was fast. Okay, it's so simple how he finished them off. When you look at his predecessors, how complex the judgments were, how many wars and battles they went through. Odoacer just, you'll see, it was pretty straightforward what he did, but it was the end. And the fourth trumpet, to me, has the language of it is predicting some kind of end game for what is occurring here. Okay, it's quite emphatic language. The fourth angel sounded. The third part of the sun was smitten. So again, it's this language of the third, probably the same third. I think that's pretty reasonable at this point to assume that. Third part of the sun was smitten. The third part of the moon, third part of the stars, third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. Okay, so this third, I don't know how you could use more emphatic language to say this is it, it's done. The moon, heavenly symbolism, religious power. The sun, the stars, the whole system, the whole structure, the whole political infrastructure is going to get destroyed. This is the end. I mean, sun. How often do suns get destroyed? Not very often. Okay, it is emphatic language. This is it. And the fact that, you can look at the context, you've got the transition to the woe trumpets, there's trumpet 5, there's, as I've said before, clear transition in language. You're probably looking for a different target at that point. Why? Because this is it, they're done. Trumpet 4, central third of the Roman Empire is going to be finished off. So once Attila's done his thing, Bible in hand, you go back in a time machine, you've got your book of Revelation, you're now looking for the Italian third to get finished off. You just don't know who's going to do it or when. It's not going to be Attila because he disappeared after not that long. So how's it going to happen? Well, this is how it happened. Talked about that. Okay, in 475, Germanic Odoacer became head of the Germanic Foederate. So Foederate is just a name for the mercenaries. So he sits as the head of a group of barbarian mercenaries, but under the Roman military. Okay, so they're working for the Romans. They're on the Roman side, but they haven't got Roman roots. They've got barbarian roots. Okay, he's Germanic. So that's Odoacer. He is working for Orestes. Okay. Orestes is a Roman. Okay, he's not the emperor, he's the head of the Roman army. In that year, 475, Orestes rebels. Who did it before? This was common, right? The Roman emperor, the worst job in the world being a Roman emperor because people always literally stabbed you in the back. It happened to so many of them, and it happened to Emperor Nepos because his loyal military commander, Orestes, killed him. Okay. And then he didn't make himself emperor, but he made his 11-year-old son, which is probably a questionable decision. Anyone 11 here? Any hands up? Any 11-year-olds here? Buddy, right. How do you feel about Buddy being recording brother, as it were? Or, in fact, emperor of the world. Do you like that, Buddy? Yeah? You can handle that? You can handle it, okay. Romulus Augustus could not handle it. Okay, so that was Orestes' son. He gets put in power, a little bit young, and then there is a mistake made. Okay, because Orestes, who's still sitting behind his son, so it's probably a bit of a puppet emperor at that point, Romulus Augustus. The soldiers who helped Orestes take the empire off, what was his name? Off Nepos. Okay, those soldiers said, "Hey, we've succeeded together. Let's enjoy the fruits of our victory together. How about a bit of nice Italian land and a nice property to retire on?" And Orestes said, "Nah, don't think so," which was not a very good move because then they banded together under the leadership of Odoacer and they said, "We're not going to put up with this," and they killed him. So so it's not a lesson. It's not the first time that lesson played out in history, is it? There's examples of that in the Bible. Okay, so that's what happens. Odoacer is suddenly, he's killed Orestes. And he's not a Roman, right? He's a barbarian. And they all decide, we're going to make him Rex. Rex is king. So he is now crowned king, and the Roman line of leadership is done. Never to return in the central third of the Roman Empire. That was the end, okay? 476 AD, historic fact, the central third of the Roman Empire was finished. And it was just so simple. It was just a silly decision not to reward some people who'd worked for, Orestes. And so his son that's a picture is, hands over the crown, says he was smart enough to do that. He hands over the crown, says, okay. And that's it. That's it. That was the end. And that, brothers and sisters, is the Trumpet 2, Trumpet 3, Trumpet 4. And that, to my opening point, for me, is Bible prophecy just playing out before our very eyes as we look over the pages of history. As I said, look at Roman history. Don't look anywhere else. You'll get very confused. But when you look at Roman history, it is not that difficult to see these cataclysmic events piecing together in sequence. I find that encouraging. This is the Word of God. It's not the only way to prove it. There's plenty of other ways, but it's one way, and I find it exciting and encouraging, and it reminds me of the hand of God in my own life, and hopefully you and yours. Thank you.